This chunky thing that looks like a root is ginger. But it's not a root, it's a rhizome, which is an underground plant stem that can produce new shoots for new plants. In fact, if you wanted to, you could buy this at the grocery store or the farmer's market, plant it in a pot at home, and grow your own ginger. When we want to eat fresh ginger, this is what we need. We peel it and can use it however we choose. We can also peel this, dry it, and pulverize it to make ground ginger, which most of us have in our spice cabinets at home. I'm Charity Nebbe. On this episode of Iowa Ingredient, we'll meet a grower whose curiosity sprouted her ginger crop. Then Chef Katy Meyer showcases the culinary versatility of this ancient perennial. All that and more coming up next on Iowa Ingredient.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient is provided by the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and the River Center, and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business, located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines. And the Friends of Iowa Public Television Foundation.
So we're gonna go put these in the oven at 350 degrees. Perfect dish. I get some of those beans with my sweet potato.
Bit of salt. Wow.
Originating in Southeast Asia, ginger has many popular culinary uses, but it's also known for its medicinal properties, particularly its use as a digestive aid. It's been around for thousands of years, and it could be argued that it is our oldest and most loved spice. Today, India is the #1 producer of ginger, but we can grow it right here in Iowa, and it's not as difficult as you might think. After watching a few episodes of Iowa Ingredient, it becomes clear just how amazing the state is for growing more than traditional row crops. Hazelnuts, Brussels sprouts, and so much more. The temperate climate here allows for a wide range of foods to be grown. Ginger, not so much. Don't get me wrong, it can be cultivated here, just not in a classic sown in the garden way. Because here's the deal, one good ill-timed frost and your harvest of ginger is gone. But don't fret, there is a way. Let's learn the basics. On a farm just south of Hampton, you'll find one grower who has put together some pots, planting soil, and a little tenacity to figure out the best way to grow ginger in Iowa.
I was in the grocery store and I saw ginger and I said, man, that's expensive. And look, it's got a little green sproutish area that I think it'd grow. And so I stuck it in a pot and I started growing ginger. And so this is the new addition here that came out from this that was put in the ground.
Karen Koenig owns and operates Koenig's Acres Farm with her husband. They supply a wide variety of fresh produce to their local farmers markets. But this educator by trade is more than willing to experiment to see what's possible when it comes to growing food.
We grow a lot of things. We do a lot of the traditional corn and tomatoes and peppers, a couple different varieties of cucumbers. We've got the snap peas. We also like to just try experimenting and growing new things with my students at school. Smell. And so we've grown citrus, the avocados, we've got pineapple plants, and we've also got ginger. And it's neat to be able to take something that you typically would buy in a store and you can replace it with something you grew yourself, and you can keep going with that same plant over and over for years.
Ginger does best in a sheltered spot with filtered sunlight, warm weather, and humidity. It's a tropical plant, after all. It needs to stay away from direct sun, high winds, and waterlogged soil.
It's not going to survive over the winter in Iowa. So yeah, it's something that you'd have to take in the winter if you want it to survive. What I look for is I look for a fresh tuber of ginger in the store, and I always look for it to have several little growth points that are a little greener. Usually they come in pretty good sized chunks, so you can break them into several sections, and then each section can be put in the ground by itself. And so you only see a little bit above ground, and once it starts growing, it will send out more tubers underneath the ground. It's got a great set of roots on it. This one's been in there, like I said, a couple of years. To me, a ginger plant looks sort of like an aggressive grass or a small corn stalk that hasn't gotten the stalk on the top. And you can just grow them in about any potting soil and any pot that you might have around. As a matter of fact, I have some in an old dish pan because I ran out of pots. This time of year, later on in the fall, if you are ready to harvest, you would take the plants out and rinse off the roots, the tubers, and then you have your own ginger. So what I would probably do with this is I would snap off this section here, use the old tuber for this part for eating, and then put this back in the potting soil and let it go again for next year. It's so simple to grow that I think that anyone with a pot and some potting soil and go to the store and grab a chunk of ginger, if it's fresh enough, it'll probably grow for them.
Iowa farmers have proven themselves to be creative, resilient, and tenacious. If there's a chance an ingredient can grow here, then it's likely that there's a farmer out there figuring out a way to plant it.
I think once my fingers got in the dirt, there was no going back.
Here on Iowa Ingredient, we celebrate the food we grow,
Beautiful
experiment with Iowa food-centric recipes, and share the joy we all get when we take our first bite. That is really nice. If you want to dine out and experience the culinary talents of any of our Iowa Ingredient chefs, check out our website to see where they're currently working and cooking. One of those chefs, Cady Meyer, tells us a little bit about her own personal culinary journey.
I grew up in the Midwest. I graduated high school in Illinois. So I lived in Illinois, Wisconsin, Missouri, and Iowa. So I did a little Midwest tour. And I visited other places, but I really love the Midwest. I feel very rooted here. I've lived in Iowa City for 19 years now, which is longer than I've lived anywhere, and it feels like home for sure. I had no idea I would be a chef. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be an architect. I majored in art for a year. But I do also feel like everything that I wanted to do has synthesized into what I'm doing now. So that's gratifying. But no, I had no idea. I remember making outrageous sandwiches for my friends, or just like dumb stuff like that. And maybe I probably just want to make a dumb sandwich, but no, I had no idea. I know I said this before, but it's worth repeating. We have some of the best soil on the whole planet Earth. I'm not making this up. The best soil under our feet right here in Iowa. So just being able to enjoy with my family what that soil right here, like our home soil, can do. It's nice to be able to do that work in a place that we call home, that we really value and respect. And so, sure, California would be amazing because you can eat anything any time of year, but I don't feel an attachment to California, and maybe I would if I lived there. But it's nice to be here, and yeah, just to think about the actual earth that we're on.
And now we're in the kitchen with Chef Katy, and we're going to cook with ginger today. Fresh ginger.
Fresh ginger, yes.
What are we gonna make?
So we're gonna make a really simple ginger peanut sauce that we're gonna put with some veggies and some soba noodles, which are buckwheat noodles, that we've already cooked and they're chilled.
Great.
So this is a really simple sauce. You probably have most, if not all, of these ingredients at home already. First, we will peel and mince this ginger. So I like to use a spoon.
Oh, a spoon.
And actually, it takes the skin off.
Nice.
Pretty
I'm a little
easily.
intimidated by working with fresh ginger.
So you could peel it with a knife or a vegetable peeler, but you would lose a lot of the flesh that has so much of the flavor, and we want to retain that. But we will peel it like this. And if we were using this in a different application, like say we were maybe juicing it, which is a really nice way to use fresh ginger, we could leave the peel on as long as it was washed. It's not gonna hurt you or anything, so.
What do you think the advantage is to fresh ginger flavor-wise? Because obviously you can buy it in a lot of different forms.
Yeah, this is really, really bright, and it'll get you right at first, and it's a good thing to blend with something that's like really rich or really fatty or really savory, because it's a good counterpoint to that.
It'll just cut right through.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I am just gonna show you a couple different things. So we could mince it like this, which is the same way that we would mince garlic. Just get it really fine. Or another way that I like to do it is to use a microplane, which is like a tiny zester, basically. So, and we just have some fresh garlic here, which I'll probably just do a little bit of. Since we're not cooking this, we don't want it to be too intense, but the fresh garlic is also a nice balance to the fresh ginger. They're really complementary. So I did want to use fresh. You could use roasted or powdered. Just maybe, actually just a little bit. And then
Another very
peanut.
strong flavor.
Yes. So peanut, and this is just a creamy, unsalted peanut butter, but you could use whatever you had around. And then this is some soy sauce and some apple cider vinegar and a little maple, just to sweeten it up a little bit, and it'll make the savory flavors sing.
Nice.
So there's that. I use my hands all the time. They're your best tools. Use your hands. Wash them and use them. So then we just whisk this, and it'll thicken a little bit from the peanut butter.
Oh, and the flavors. I can just smell the...
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So we can even put in, let's put in just a little bit of that minced ginger too. Why not? And then we have some soba noodles here. Do you want to pour that sesame oil? This is just a toasted sesame oil. Pour that over the noodles and then kind of toss them around.
Sure.
With those tongs. And I am just going to zest and juice this fresh lime, which will get a little bit of the ginger in there too that's still on the microplane, which is awesome. It smells so good. There's nothing quite like fresh citrus.
Yeah.
And then,
We're definitely eating with our nose first. Here.
yes, that's true. So then I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit here and massage this just to kind of break it down a little bit. And then a little salt too, I forgot. Do a little salt. Just massage this to soften it a little bit. And then we will throw in these noodles. We won't use quite all of them. Then just tossing here. So you could make the sauce a little bit thinner if you wanted it to be, you know, not quite as thick as we have it here.
But it's breaking up and coating everything.
Yeah.
That looks great.
Thanks. And then I have some cherry tomatoes that I'm just gonna have really quick, a few of them for us, because they're really fresh and bright, and then some chopped cilantro, which is always a nice garnish. Tomato. So this is really rich. The cabbage should be a good balance to how rich the peanut is. Okay.
All right.
So
the smell, I wish we could bottle that smell. That's fantastic.
you should bottle that. It's nice and rich, but you get the burst of ginger and the citrus.
Well, and it's fun because you get that peanut butter first, but then there's so many layers to the flavor.
Yeah.
And they sort of come forward in turn.
Yes.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
Chef
you.
Katy, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We've had our noodles. Now it's time for dessert.
It
What are we
is.
gonna make?
So I already made us some cupcakes. So these are pumpkin cupcakes, and they have fresh ginger in them. And I actually was super excited because I got the first pie pumpkins of the season. So I roasted them and pureed the pumpkin, and so genuine pumpkin, Iowa pumpkin in those.
And then just minced, minced ginger in there?
I would take ginger and peel it with a spoon, like I showed you earlier, and then just mince it and stir it in the batter. So I used a pretty typical pumpkin cupcake recipe and just replaced the powdered ginger with fresh ginger.
Nice.
So it's got more of a pop, and yeah, it's really great.
All right, well, I can't wait to try that, but you also have a wonderful buttercream idea. More ginger.
Yeah. So you gotta put frosting on cupcakes, otherwise they're muffins or something. So we're gonna make some buttercream, and so really standard buttercream with some butter. This is a soy butter, powdered sugar, vanilla, and then instead of a liquid like a milk or non-dairy milk, I actually juiced some whole ginger with the skin on, and then juiced a little bit of carrot too, just to, sometimes if you put just ginger through your juicer, not a lot of it comes through.
Okay.
So I
The
did
carrot kind of pushes that through.
Exactly, yep. And it actually adds a really nice tint
Color,
to
yeah.
the buttercream. So
And it's a wonderful blend. I mean, they really complement each other well.
carrot and ginger.
All right.
Yeah. So all we're gonna do is just make our buttercream with this softened butter. There we go. And then we're gonna measure out our powdered sugar and sift that. So you do wanna sift the powdered sugar so it's not lumpy, otherwise you're gonna have
Lumps.
lumps and unpleasant buttercream. So we're just sifting this, and then as soon as this is sifted, we'll add it to the softened butter. And I do kind of like to just push it through too. Yeah, so this is a treat. This is like an insane amount of sugar, but that's okay. And you will end up with more. So we have a dozen cupcakes here, and this is enough for probably 2 dozen.
2 dozen.
Yeah. And it freezes, buttercream freezes. You can put it in the freezer and then just let it thaw and give it a stir and use it. So it's a nice thing to make a double batch. I always feel like almost everything, just make a double batch.
Right, as long as you're going to the effort, you might as well put some away for later, right?
So now we'll put the powdered sugar in.
And the butter was at room temperature to make it nice and
was.
easy to cream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we didn't have to let it go that long. And then I'm just going to very gently turn that on to get it going. Add a little vanilla. Once some of the sugar is incorporated, you can turn it up a little. And then the carrot ginger juice. All right, so now we'll take a little bit into a dish, and you can frost a cupcake, and we can eat it. Okay.
Here's a dish for the...
Thank you. All right, so there is some ginger buttercream, fresh
that is
ginger
beautiful.
buttercream.
Yeah.
There's that.
All right, and we're not going to get too fancy here. We're just
No,
gonna...
I mean, you could have like a piping bag
Sure.
and all of that, but I feel like putting it on like that is great, and I'm not a fan of the like frosting that's taller than the cupcake. Like, I want some cake with my frosting.
Oh, to each their own, Katie.
Well, true. You might feel differently. Yum. All right, so I will cut this in half and we can share it.
Wonderful.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That is decadent.
Oh, it is decadent. Wow, that is delicious. Now I'm getting ginger and butter and sugar.
Yes.
Not a lot of carrot, but it's subtle.
No, I
It's
feel
there.
like it's more the color. I mean, maybe if we really thought about it, we could get the
Right.
carrot, but no.
No, and the cupcakes are delicious.
Thank you.
Pumpkin-y and gingery and delicious.
Thank you.
Chef Katy, thank you.
Yes.
Eating flowers isn't new. If you've enjoyed broccoli or cauliflower recently, you've eaten flowers. While we don't normally consider flowers to be food, Erin Steil from Reiman Gardens in Ames, Iowa is going to share with us some colorful blossoms that can be a creative and innovative ingredient in the kitchen.
I have here in front of me a few examples of common flowers that you might have in your own garden that you could potentially use in the kitchen. And they can be used for things like flavoring butters and oils, vinegars, even vodka. They're great in salads to add color and a mild flavor. They're great in desserts. And even simple things like adding a few chopped up flower petals to pancakes can be a lot of fun to introduce a different flavor as well as a fun color. One of the easiest and best ones to start with is the daylily. The petals of daylily are often used, especially in Asian cuisine, and dried daylily petals are a common addition to hot and sour soup. They have a kind of leafy or green, mild flavor that is slightly sweet. They vary a lot in their color, and typically the ones that are yellow and orange taste a little bit better than the ones that are red. Another common plant that you can get out of your garden is the rose. And roses like this one are great. It has a very perfumey smell, and just like with the daylilies, they vary a little bit in flavor depending on the cultivar. Typically, the older cultivars tend to taste a little bit better than the newer varieties. When you use the petals of rose, the other thing you want to keep in mind is that this little base here tends to be kind of bitter, so removing that white base of the petal can really improve the flavor when you add it to various dishes like desserts or salads. These are really great for infusing things too. The last of the big three I want to talk about are nasturtiums, and this one tastes very different than daylilies or roses. It has a really bright, spicy, almost peppery flavor. They come in really bright colors too. This orange is very common, but you can get it in yellow and red, and this really easy to grow annual. You can use the leaves, but the flowers are a lot more fun to include in dishes like salads, both green and fruit salads. It can be a lot of fun. It pairs really well with salmon and other meats because of that spicy, peppery flavor, and of course adds a lot of color too. Pansies are another great flower that is often in our gardens at home that can be used in recipes. These really bright, colorful flowers have a very mild, kind of green or grassy flavor, and of course brighten up any dessert or salad that you might pair them with. Many of us are growing squash in our garden, and not only are the squash edible, but so are their flowers. And the flowers of any summer or winter squash can be used stuffed with cheese, goat cheese, or other things. And zucchini is probably the one that's most commonly used, mostly because it helps you control how much zucchini you get, too, by picking the flowers. You can also use the flowers for many of the herbs that are growing in your garden. Herbs like mint, sage, and chives all have really colorful flowers that taste like mild versions of their leaves. And so using them in different soups or salads or other things can really brighten up the dish as well as add a lot of fun to them. As you go out in your garden and you use these flowers, keep in mind that not every flower is edible. And even those flowers that are on plants that we eat other parts of may not be good to consume. So for example, the potato is of course edible, but the little blue flower that forms on a potato plant would probably make you feel very sick. So make sure that you know your flowers and you can really enjoy them in your kitchen that way.
You don't want to use chemicals on flowers that you plan to eat, so make sure you know how your flowers were grown. And it's important to start slow, because some flowers are best enjoyed in small amounts. With a little research, you can have a lot of fun adding the flavor, color, texture, and elegance of edible flowers to your dishes. That's it for this week's show. Thank you for digging into Iowa's food scene with us. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time for another illuminating episode of Iowa Ingredient. Keep in mind that circumstances are always changing, so please take a moment to check ahead if you're planning to visit a restaurant, farm, or event featured on the show.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient is provided by the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and the River Center, and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business, located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines. And the Friends of Iowa Public Television Foundation.